Okay, Rav Golomb, welcome here. You can speak if you want.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good.
I just logged on. Can you hear me adequately?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
correct. Even
Well,
Erftov.
I just logged on at the very end of this shiur. It was very interesting. I can tell you on that that my daughter once had to travel for Chabad work from Australia to Alaska during the Sfira, and she ended up having 3 days Shavuos because of this,
Oh, no.
which she wasn't very pleased about. She couldn't take a hair wash when she wanted to, and when you have lots of girls in your family, you get to know that the hair washing and when you can and can't do it is very important, almost as important as the cheesecake, depending on which yontif it is. So yeah, that is true. And the rabbi was absolutely accurate there, because if you have the whole yontif has not got a fixed date, so it's only determined by your counting. Now, if it would be a communal counting, then you could say I'll go with the community, but it isn't. Svartim Nachem should say Sfira kol echad v'achas. Every person has to do their own Sfirat Omer. So therefore, that means that each person could, in theory, end up on a different day of Shavuos. I see a gentleman by the name of Meir Salomon on my screen, who mentioned about the calendars. One of the things I do is I visit people who are locked up, and it so happens in a particular prison I go to, there's about 1,000 prisoners, of which 300 are Muslim. And the Ramadan moves around the year. So when it moves around to the summer, I met up with the Catholic chaplain there, and he was very upset. Why? Because since Ramadan is in the summer, then they won't eat. About 300 of these people won't eat until it's dark. The kitchen is closed by the time it's dark, already late at night. So they had to buy 300 vacuum flasks for meals, which cost them a gewalt of money, and they were very upset about it, just in order to satisfy the Muslim population there, who suddenly became very religious when they were locked up. So that just reminded me what you said about the lunar calendar. But Yisrael moinim the Levana, the doimim the Levana. Yidden are count to the moon and are like the moon. Like the moon does not have its own light, but reflects a much greater light of the sun. So to a Jew reflects the Almighty's light rather than his or her own. Are we ready to kick off?
Yes, of course. Speak,
Okay.
please.
I'm going to try and share my screen with you. 1 minute. I got that wrong. Sorry, I'm a little bit. Where's my thing gone? Right, if I click share screen, then that should come up. And this is.
Yes, coming.
Yeah. Do you see anything?
Yes, this there.
Right. So I believe you.
The son of Yaakov, I see.
Yeah, you believe that. I believe that's what you call the Koilosh, Shanas Yaakov, which is after your late wife, Alea Sholem.
Yes.
With whom I had several conversations, although I don't think I ever met her, but at least I did talk with her. And she was a very fine-spoken and very intelligent lady, and it's nice to remember how Teres came in Nevolim with Fedes Bonim Avoison. So I'd like to move on. That this is the Ili Nishmas Shoshana Bas Yitzchok, and this is the closest I could get to red in the background, which I got from Dan. It's her favorite color, or used to be a favorite color. Mount Sinai, why do we need it? It seems like a very silly question. What do you mean, why do you need Har Sinai? Of course we need Har Sinai because we have the Aseres HaDibros, and we have the Almighty giving the Torah. Moshe goes up the mountain for 40 days, and he learns all the halachas. Just on a side point, what was he doing on the 40th day? He was learning Torah with the Eibishter. And what were the Yidden doing? They were building the Egel Azov, the golden calf, which tells you that even when Jews are building an Egel Azov, you still have to teach Torah. So there seems to be an obvious answer why we would need Har Sinai. However, that doesn't quite, if you look at it closely, it won't answer the question. We say this, they went up that we had the Mount Sinai, we had Har Sinai, the Yom Tov we just come from, in order to receive the Torah. But we already had it. We already had the Torah. You say, well, we didn't have the Torah because it's called Yom Matan Torah Say, the day when the Torah was given. But it's not true because we already had the Torah in as much as we know that Kiyum Avraham Avinu Kol HaTorah Kol Asher Nitno V'Afila Elef Tafshilim, that Avraham kept all the Torah. He was taught it by Malachim before the Eibishter ever gave the Torah. And there are many references to this in the Torah. We know, for instance, that one of the reasons we have 3 matzahs on Pesach night is because when the Malachim came to visit Avraham, he says, Shloish Se'im Kerach Seiles Lushiv Asi Uges. That the Almighty said to Avraham, who said to Sarah, Shloishim 3 sa'ah of kemach, of flour, you should make into Loshiv Asi Uges, make into cakes, which we're told is matzah because that day was Erev Pesach. So she was preparing matzahs. When the Malachim came to the same night to Lot's house, the pasuk says, "Umatzis offer vayechelu." They were baking matzahs. They may not have had the whole story reason of why that was to be revealed in later generations, but they were still keeping the mitzvahs. Not only that, we know the pasuk says, "Ki yadati the man asher yitzaveh bono bespesei acharov," which is Parshas Vayera. The Almighty says to Avraham, I'm going to trust you with my traditions and with my blessings and make you into a great nation because I know that you're going to command your children and they will follow in your path. Now, this is the answer to the Muslim community, by the way, in as much as they claim their same ancestry goes back to Avraham. But the only place they know this is from the Torah. And the Torah says quite clearly that the Eibishter says that Kivi Yitzchak Yikar L'Chazara, because of this pasuk, he indicted that he followed in the path. Whereas Yishmael, although he did Teshuvah later date, his descendants did not follow in the path of Torah. So we know that Avraham kept the Torah. We know the Gemara says that Yitzchak sat and learned Torah, that Yaakov sat and learned Torah. We even know that in Mitzrayim there were yeshivas, because the pasuk tells us towards the end of Parshas Vayigash that the Eibush, that Yaakov sent Yehuda ahead before he arrives in Mitzrayim, and he said, "That's Yehuda's shalach afanav Yosef lahayreis lefanov Goshna." In the land of Goshna should teach Hayrah, and as Rashi says, that the second they based Talmud that he was to establish a yeshiva. So the first reference that I know of in the pasuk that says to a creation of a yeshiva was actually in Mitzrayim, when Yehuda set up a yeshiva before Yaakov and his other sons and his other family arrived there. So we have here Limud Torah well before Matan Torah. We know throughout the times that Yidden were in Mitzrayim, the tribe of the Leviim never stopped learning. If you look at the numbers that we read in Bamidbar, of how many there were in the tribe of Levi and how many there were in the other tribes of Israel, you will notice that Levi is very small. The Medrash says, how come Levi was such a small tribe? And it says, because they were sitting learning Torah and they were not working like slaves. And the bracha that God gave to the Jewish people, that as the more they got oppressed, the more they multiplied. That didn't happen to Levi because they weren't getting oppressed, so they didn't multiply. So Levi was sitting learning Torah throughout Mitzrayim. So I have a simple solution. Why do we have to make the whole spiel with a mountain, with a thunder and a lightning and the shofar blowing with no stop? Get the tribe of Levi to sit down with the whole of Klal Yisrael and teach them all the mitzvahs of the Torah. Maybe it wouldn't have had an Ignas up. What do you need Moshe go up the mountain? They know already the Torah. What's the point? I know it makes for a nice film. You know, one day Spielberg will do a nice version of, Matan Torah and of Chais and the crossing of Yamsel. But in logic, l'chayra, we have already everything we need for the Torah to be taught to the Am Yisrael after the Din Mitzrayim. Well, you could answer that it was a godly revelation. Rambam says that until Moshe, until the Yidden see the Yebish at Sinai, the emunah is nearly intact, 99%, but it's not 100%. It is an emunah. He says the faith of the Jewish people is emunah sheyesh acharei hiru. It is a faith which has a little bit of suspicion at the back of it. Maybe, just like the Chartumim in Mitzrayim, the magicians in Egypt were able to do tricks. So Moshe is an even better trick maker. So he can even split a sea. However, that would need, firstly, that would only need a brief moment of revelation. You don't have to have a set of sentiments. You don't have to have all this spiel that goes with the tremendous shaking and announcement that the whole world wanted to know what is happening. They came to Bilam and they said, "What's this big noise?" All the donkeys stopped making a noise. All the birds stopped twittering. All the cows stopped moving. And everything, what? They said, because the Eibush is giving the Torah to his people. So this was a very dramatic moment. And why was that necessary? Just have the Eibush appear quietly to the Jewish people, and that's the end of it. Besides, that's not what we call it. We don't call Shavuos just a revelation. We say Zman, Matam, Torah Seinu. It's a day when we give the Torah. So clearly something more fundamental is happening. Second question. Well, to summarize, the first question is, what is the point of Har Sinai? What is the point of Matan Torah and the revelation? Second question. You all know Avram kept the whole Torah. We just said he kept the whole Torah. But there's one mitzvah he didn't keep. And that was the mitzvah of having a bris. And it isn't until he's 99 years old that he finally gets to having the bris. And so 612 mitzvahs he keeps, but the one mitzvah of the bris he doesn't keep. I've heard of a bris being delayed, but till 99 is a little bit long. So the question is why? It would seem that the reason he waited is because this was the one mitzvah that he wouldn't do voluntarily. He would be commanded by Hashem to do. And that makes it special. Okay, be that as may. But why is a mitzvah that commanded by Hashem better? And the answer is Gadol hamatzuvah v'eiseh yeseh mishe'einu mitzvah v'eiseh. That it is better to fulfill a mitzvah when you're commanded than when you're not commanded. Now, this in itself begs the question. So the answer is why? Because there's no Yetzer Hara. When a person does something because he's told to, your natural reaction is to, whenever a human being is told to do something, you kind of don't want to do it because you're told, and do it because I want to decide to do it. And sometimes my mother comes to stay, and she'll tell me she has a habit of thinking she still needs to look after me, right? I'm 57, but Baruch Hashem, she's still looking after me. So she will tell me sometimes later night, she says to me, Jonathan, I think you should go to bed. I don't know why, but for some reason, the moment she says to me to go to bed, I do not want to go to bed. Why? Because my mother told me so. But that's only because we have a human instinct that wants to be independent. However, when it comes to Avraham Avinu, why would that be a problem? Why is it that we have a Yetzer Hara only when we are told to do something? Besides, Avraham Avinu had no Yetzer Hara. He did whatever they should. Somebody who's prepared to slaughter his son does not have a Yetzer Hara, because there's no way you get past that. So we still need to understand why he waited so long. Third question. When sending Eliezer to look for a wife, Avraham makes him swear. Avraham has a son, Yitzchak. He's 37 years old. Time to find a shidduch. His mother is no longer alive, so Avraham has to do it. Now, Yitzchak cannot leave Eretz Yisrael, because since he was offered up on the Mizbeach, the Torah says, Ato oilas mima, you are like a korban, like a sacrifice, which once taken up, you cannot become not holy anymore. You cannot go down. And for you, the whole of Eretz Yisrael is like your altar, so you cannot leave Eretz Yisrael. And Avraham realized that if he's going to find a wife, he needs to go back to his family, because he knew there was somebody there that might be suitable. So what does he do? He sends Eliezer. He says, Eliezer, I'm giving you a lot of money for this dowry. So I want you to make sure you follow my instructions of who that money is going to go to, and what kind of a wife you will find for my son. and I need you to make me a promise, and I need it to be an oath that is something you will take seriously. So he makes him make a promise, and he says to him, Simna yadcha tachas yerechi. Put your hand beneath my thigh, which was a polite way of saying the bris milah. What was he doing? He was making him swear on the bris milah. Why would he do that? It's an odd thing to do. So Rashi says the reason why he made him swear on the bris milah is because it was dear to him. It was a mitzvah that he kept after God had commanded him to do so late in life, it caused him pain, and so it had it rang special with him. Okay, but normally if you make an oath back in the days of a Beis Din or a Sanhedrin, you do it on a Sefer Torah or on Tefillin. Why is that not there? Is a Sefer Torah not Tefillin not dear to Avraham Avinu that he has to pick such a thing? Befrat, it's not exactly the most delicate of objects to make an oath over. So we're going to try and answer all of this. I just pause a minute and ask: is it all understood? Because I don't know if my English is good enough, or if is everybody answers anything you want to ask of me? It's all fine. Good, I'll carry on. Danke, or whatever it. Vrolijke gebeurtenis is that only few words you know in Dutch. So to answer all of this, we need to understand exactly what is happening on Matan Torah at the giving of the Torah. Logically, things which are gashmias, material, are not ruchnias. They are not spiritual. They are two separate things. By definition, what we call mutually exclusive. If something is ruchni, it can't be gashmi. If something is gashmi, it can't be ruchni. This would seem to be logical. So you have here, when the Eibishter created the world, he created many olamas, many different types of worlds. We know that there are 4 worlds: Atzilus, Periya, Yetzirah, Asiyah, Kabbalah, and within those there are hundreds of thousands of different levels. And then there's levels before these worlds. And then there is the Tzimtzum Arishon, and before the Tzimtzum Arishon, there's Adam Kadmon. Within Adam Kadmon, there's Atik Yemin, there's Arich Ampin, and the Zeir Ampin. If you want to get into Kabbalah, you'll find all these different madrigas. They're all ruchnis on various levels. One of the reasons it takes 9 months for a child to be born is because the neshama has to come from such a high place near the Eibishter. It takes 9 months to acclimatize to coming down to the lower levels. And before that, the neshama is coming down to this world and is asked, do you want to come down and live in this world? The neshama says, no, I don't want to go. I like it here. Here's Ruchni is next to the Eibishter, Tachas Kisi HaKoved, near the God's holy throne. I don't go down to that world. And they're saying, listen, if you want to grow, you're going to have to go down. There's no other way around it. Besides, the things that God wants done in the world, and you have a purpose, I need you to go down there. This is the meaning of the Mishnah in Pirkei Avot. Al korchoch atochai. Against your will, you don't live. So how do we understand that Mishnah? What do you mean against your will? Before you're born, you don't have a will. Is the answer you do. As an neshama, you had a choice. Or at least you think you had a choice. And in the end, you're told, no, you have to come down to this world because you have a purpose. And so the Almighty sends a neshama down, and it takes 3 months of preparation plus 9 months of travel, so that a year after the person has been decided that this will be born, you finally get to be born. How do we know this? We know this from Yitzchak. When the Malach came to tell Sarah that she would have a son, the Rashi says, based on the method, she made a mark in the wall. And he said, when the sun will come, the shadow of the sun will come around to this mark, this time next year, you will have a son. And Taka, next year, Yitzchak was born on Erev Pesach. Why did it take a whole year? Because it took a whole year, because there's 3 months of preparation plus 9 months of pregnancy, and then finally Yitzchak arrives in the world. So we know that they're say very, very high worlds, and that the neshama comes from an extremely high place in Shamayim, and that when it comes down to this world, we are taught that we should have Ahavas Yisrael just on account of the fact of the neshama of a person. Even if there's nothing else there to say nice about them, you still have to love a Jew. Why? Because he has a neshama. He has a neshama which is a chedek, Elokai, Mimal, Mamish, a portion of God from on high, literally. So now we understand that these are two different worlds. There's a Ruchnis world and there's a Gashmistika world. Until Matan Torah, they remain separate. There's nothing unusual about that. In fact, the Medrash on Shir HaShirim says, before the world was created, there was a Gezerah. What was the Gezerah? El Yonim lo yerdu letachtoinim, letachtoinim lo yalu lo yonim. The upper worlds do not come down to the lower worlds, and the lower worlds don't go up to the higher worlds. The two remain separate.
Rabbi,
Yeah.
I've got one question. You talk about the creation is 3 months for preparation and 9 months for the birth of a child.
Yeah.
Is that also, can you make a connection then? It's also that they told me, I learned this, that it's maximum of 11 months to be in the Gehinom. Because if you're doing 12 months or longer, then you will be born again. So that is the reason why they have only 11 months. Is there a connection or is nothing to do with each other?
I don't know. I don't think there's any connection.
Okay.
They say that Mishpat Rishon Shel Gehenim is 12 months. The judgment of very evil people is 12 months. Therefore, nobody wants to say that their mother or father or relative is evil. So therefore, we stop a month early, so as to make the point that we in this world decided that he or she is not a Rasha, not an evil person, and we stop early. If you will study a little bit more the writings of Arizal, you'll find out that nowadays nobody's there for even 11 months. It's much less. Yeah, we don't get any decent evil people anymore. You just can't find them. You know that. Back in the days of the Bible, they had a big proper Rishonim. Nowadays, nowadays there's no such thing as a Rosh, not a Rosh. I meet Jews of all shapes and sizes. There's only one thing that separates an Orthodox Jew and a not Orthodox Jew, and that's one thing only: education. If you're brought up with the knowledge, you will be more likely to not follow it. If you're not doing these things, in my community, there are people who drive to shul on Shabbos. I don't see it. They park around the corner. I sort of heard about it. They drive because they are evil. They're not evil. They're very nice people. They just no one brought up that way. And this is a halacha. This is a whole section in the Gemara of Shabbos, which is called Tinuk Shanish B'Beina Akum. If a child was brought up amongst non-Jewish people as non-Jew, and all he knows is he's Jewish but knows nothing about it, then he's not responsible for what he or she may do in later life. That is the din. Same thing the Rambam writes with regards to the Karoim, the Karaites. He says that the Karoim themselves are not certain mitzvahs, we can include them, and certain mitzvahs we can't. For instance, they can't be included in a minyan because they don't believe on principle that the concept of a minyan can be learned from the Torah. So if you don't believe in it, you're not part of it. However, writes the Rambam, that if their children were brought up that way and they don't know any better, you can include them in a minyan. So we don't get evil people anymore. I wouldn't worry about Gehenim too much. It's the Gemara says in two places that kefelach rimoin rakosech, like a flowering pomegranate. You know what pomegranate is, yeah? Is rakosech, is your empty ones. And the Gemara finishes off, in Chagiga at least, it finishes off and says, Afilu reikonim shebach meleim mitzvahs kerimim. Even the empty ones are full of mitzvahs like a pomegranate. You know, a pomegranate's full of seeds. You open it up, it's full of seeds. They make your hands, they go everywhere. There's supposed to be 613 seeds in a pomegranate. That's what they say. I counted one. I only got a couple of hundred. I took it back. I told them, this is endemic. This is no good. So anyhow, so that's the general picture. So whether there's any connection between the travel, the descent of a person and the after Gehenna, I don't know. I don't think so, because it will depend on your actions in this world. Some people more, some people less. So back to the original subject. So we know that the upper worlds and the lower worlds are not connected one with the other, for totally two different worlds. Hey, Matan Torah, and what does it say? Vayered Hashem al Sinai. Hashem comes down on the mountain. Why does he have to come down to the mountain when he can't shout? He can shout from heaven. What's the significance of coming down on the mountain? And Moshe Rabbeinu has to stand there. And later on, when he's learning the rest of the Torah, he goes up the mountain. What's this connection that's going on? This is connecting the world of the spiritual with the world of the physical. For the first time in the history of civilization, 2,448 years after the creation of the universe, we now have a fusion of Ruchnius and Gashmius, where the physical now becomes Ruchni, becomes spiritual. What's the proof of this? We know you take some animal skin and you turn it into leather, and you shape the leather into a pair of tefillin, and you put on the tefillin, then the tefillin become holy. How do I know it becomes holy? The din says so, and the Torah tells you the truth. The Torah is not lying to you. It says you mustn't drop them on the floor. You must treat them with respect. Why? This is animal skin. The animal used to wander, to sit on the floor beforehand. So yeah, but now you've made it into something holy. So now you've got to be careful. You've got to treat, you cannot put holy objects at the same level as your feet. So we have this fusion between things which are material and the spiritual dimension, that they become one. That for the first time, Gashmias becomes Kedusha, becomes holiness. This is a major achievement. That is why we can't wait for the tribe of the Levite to teach. They can only create knowledge. But for this Gezeda to be nisbattle, to be taken away, for us to be able to turn the world into a holy place, we need the God to do that. And that happens because God commands us. When God commands us to do something, that creates the connection. So material.
Sorry, Rabbi Golomb.
Yeah.
What about the flour that becomes bread, and bread being holy for Shabbos as well? Avram fed the angels bread, didn't he?
He did. I'll get that. Let me feed that out. It's a good question, and let me feed that out. When we have a mitzvah of the Torah, you will notice that nearly all the mitzvahs are mitzvahs that require material things. So tefillin, you need to have klaf gashmi. Tefillin, Sefer Torah, you need to have gashmi. On Eitz Chaim made of proper wood. Tzitzis have to be out of wool, tzemer. Any mitzvah you think of, a lulav and esrog, you have to have the lulav and esrog. If you have Shabbos candles, you need to have wax and a flame, and you need to light them. Every mitzvah involves material objects. The few mitzvahs which are things that, like Ahavas Hashem, the love of God, and Yiras Hashem, the fear of God, have to be felt in a physical heart. They're not something which is in the air. Has to be felt by me. Otherwise, I'm not fulfilling the mitzvah adequately. So the notion of all the mitzvahs is that we take something material and we make it holy. Sometimes to a very great extent, and sometimes to a lesser extent. That is the purpose of the giving of the Torah. The Eibishter wants us to spread Kedusha in the world. He made a very material world, and it's our job to make it spiritual. So this, if you like, is a contrast between Jews and lahavdil non-Jews. The Jewish purpose is to make the world a holy place, and the non-Jewish person's purpose is to make the world. So if a Jew works on Shabbos, he's desecrating it. If a non-Jew doesn't work on Shabbos, he too is desecrating. So why aren't you working? So why it's Shabbos? Your job is to work. You're wasting your time. You should be working. Gosh, Shabbos Chaim Misa. If a non-Jew was to celebrate Shabbos and make it into a religion, it could be a point where he becomes God forbid something could happen to him in a world which is run according to Torah. So our job is to do this spiritual. Many times in our community, I get into discussions with my members about what the purpose of being Jewish is. So they say to me, Rabbi, listen, I may not be that religious, but I pay my taxes. And if I see an old lady, I help across the road. And I've never cheated anyone in business. That's what being a good Jew is all about. I say, that's not true. That is not true. You don't have to be Jewish to pay your taxes and help old ladies cross the road and to be honest in business. So you say you're the only ones who do it. There are non-Jews out there, not honest people. You think you're the only one who can be honest. You're the only one who can be pay your taxes. We don't hold copyright on goodness and honesty. The other peoples can do that as well. There's some very good non-Jews out there. The purpose of being Jewish is to do Jewish things. The purpose of being Jewish is to do Jewish things. Those are the things which as a non-Jew you can't do. So Shabbos, we have a royal family. You also have a royal family, do you not? So the Queen of England is a wonderful person, and she's very, very prim and proper, and she does all sorts of things which are very much in the traditional way. Children but she is very much the same. If she comes and lights Shabbos candles in her home, it doesn't make the Shabbos one scrap. If she was to take bread and separate it to challah, it does not make it holy in the least bit. If a Jewish woman who never seen the royal family and doesn't even have 2 pennies to rub together, if she separates challah, it makes it holy. The next one in line to become king is Prince Charles. If I have 9 Yidden and Prince Charles, soll sein gesund und stark, he doesn't make the minyan. If I have 10 shmata makers, they make minyan. And the minyan is a pshat. Hashem nitzav adas kel. The Eibishter is standing there. Whenever there's 10 people there, the Eibishter's presence is there, the Shekhinah is there. So this is the job of a Yid, is he works in the realm of the Ruchnis. And he takes the physical world and turns it into something Ruchni. He takes skin and makes it into tefillin. He takes wax and turns it into Shabbos candles. He takes a few leaves and branches and makes it into mitzvahs and tidas daled minute, b'chein hol, and so on and so forth. That is the purpose of, or that is the dynamics of what happened at Matan Torah, that we were given this koyach to take the material world and turn it into something spiritual. So this gezeh was nullified, and now from now on they can correct. The word mitzvah is from the same root as tzavsa v'chibur, which means connection. Take the bracha that we make. Whenever we do a mitzvah, we say, Asher kidishanu b'mitzvaysav v'tzivanu. God has made us holy b'mitzvaysav, by commanding us. Every time you do a mitzvah, you make 3 things holy. A person who does it, he makes himself holy. The object with which you do the mitzvah becomes holy. And the place where you do the mitzvah also becomes holy. You become a holy area. Once was a mitzvah here. Hashem was big on this. He's very big on this one. Because if you go to a place which is wild and it's not where people live, in the countryside on a mountain, you should recite words of Torah. So why should I recite it in the middle of a mountain? So because who knows, since the world was created, no Kedusha was ever sprinkled there. So do something there, because you may be the first person who's ever done that. You don't know. So don't waste the opportunity. Elsewhere he writes, there's a sefer called Tzavos Rivosh, which gives different small ideas. Nowadays we have GPS, but years ago we used to have maps. I'm a male. I'm the type of person who likes to think I can find my own way there. I don't need to ask anyone. So I read my route, I drive, and then I find I made the wrong turn. And then I do another turn, I find I get more and more lost. So what do? I get frustrated. Until eventually I'm forced to ask somebody, can you tell me how can I get from here to there? Why do I get frustrated? Because I didn't end up where I wanted to go. But stop for a minute. No Jew steps anywhere without there being a purpose. You think you got lost because you didn't read the map right? No, you got lost because God wants you to be here. So what do you want me here for? That was a mistake. He said, no, no such thing as a mistake. Me'Hashem mitzadei gever kleinonu. God establishes, connects the footsteps of man. So everything that a person does, even the mistakes you make, is all part of a plan. Why you chose to do things, if they are wrong, let's say, That's already your choice, but nothing is ever a mistake. And you know this from the story of Yosef, because after Yaakov dies, all the brothers come to him and they fall on their face and they say, "Hinenu l'chol avodim," because we sold you, we are your slaves, because we sold you into Egypt. And Yosef says, "What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Lo atem shlachtem oisi heino. You didn't send me here. Ki melikiv. God sent me here. You people made a choice. You're going to have to go back home and worry about your choice. But I was meant to be here. And you can see that this is a good thing. Because God has sent me here. This is actually turned out, God sent me here, it's turned out to be a good thing. It's providing you with food. So nothing happens by mistake. So therefore, whenever we end up somewhere wrong, or make a wrong turning, whatever it is, it's no mistake you're meant to be. You miss a plane, you miss a train, you miss a bus. You think, oh yeah, it's meant to happen for sure. If a person can truly internalize it, I struggle with this. You can truly internalize it, nothing will ever bother you. Everywhere you're meant to be is a reason. How you got there and your choice is one thing. But the fact that you're there was all part of a plan. So that is the Inyan of Matan Torah, that we are come down to this world and we connect between the Gashmis and the Ruchnis. We take the material world around us and we make it holy in what we do and what we say, the mitzvahs that we keep, and the materials with which we keep them, and the places where we keep them. This is what is called Kedusha. That is how something comes Kodesh, comes holy. So the knowledge we might have had before Matan Torah, but the mitzvah would have stayed in heaven. And you know what? That's exactly what happened with the Ovis. With Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Avraham had tefillin because he kept all the Torah. That's what the Gemara says. When he put on tefillin and wrapped them around them, after he's finished, he could have thrown them in the bin. They weren't holy. In Shamayim, there was something achieved. But that's in Shamayim. In this world, the tefillin are not holy. He doesn't have one holy object in the house. There's nothing. They're the tools with which he does the mitzvah, but they themselves remain ordinary objects. That is why the bris milah was so special. Avram was told, one day God will tell you to do that mitzvah. So I can tell me. If he's going to tell me, then that's going to make the physical world will become holy. The first time that a mitzvah will connect with this world. I'm going to wait. I'm not going to do that. Because once you've done it, you can't do it again. So he waited, and he waited 99 years, so that one day God will come to him and say, oh, you do the bris. Oh, what's Asher Kiddushanu b'mitzvos? If God commanded me to do this, that makes the Gashmias, the physical thing, holy. And that is why Avram waited. So when he looks around the house and he wants to make an oath, a shvur on something holy, what does he have? He has nothing in the house. There's one thing he has, which qualifies as far as the din of Shavua is concerned. When you make an oath, it has to be Benekitas Chayfet. And the Gemara learns it out from Avraham. You have to hold something holy, as if connecting with the holiness and giving you the strength to keep your word. So all he has is a bris. So that's why he has to tell Eliezer, Simna Yadcha Tachas Yirechi, because it's all he has. Now we can understand better the Gemara about Moshe Rabbeinu when he went up to Har Sinai. I'm sure you've all heard the Gemara, all heard the story. The B'shur Ben Levi says, when Moshe Rabbeinu went up onto the mountain, the Malchei Ashari says, who's this guy here? What's he doing here? So the Eibishter says to the Malchim, he says, he's come to receive the Torah. It's Shavuos. That's what we do. So they said, the angel said to him, what are you talking about? This Chemda Benuza, this treasure which you've been keeping for 1,774 generations. You want to give it to a human being? How could you possibly trust him? They'll do sins, they'll do things wrong. And so Moshe turns to Moshe says, Moshe, what are you going to answer them? So Moshe says, I'm afraid. Shema Yisufuni behevel. Maybe they will consume me when I converse with Malachim that's so holy, I'll get burnt. So he says, hold on to my throne and I will protect you. I will screen you PPE. I'll put the mask on you and gloves, and you'll be okay. So, as says, Pashas, I love Anona, one Psukim says in this table. Moshe Rabbeinu turns to the Malachim and he says to them, the Torah that you give is, what does it say in it? What's on the Ten Commandments? It says, I'm the Lord your God who took you out of Egypt. The Mitzrayim Yeradatem. The Parah is about the Tem. Did you go down to Egypt? Will you slave to Parah? What else does it say? You shall not have any other gods. They not going out in Shurim. Or do you live amongst the non-Jewish people that you could possibly serve other gods? No, you live in heaven. You're not subject to those temptations. And he went through the whole Aseret Dibros. Zachish Yom HaShabbos HaKadshei. Maso Matan Yesh Benechem. Kabelis Avicha V'Simecha. Only your father and your father. Ava Ein Yesh Bechem. Do you have parents? Let me ask a question. Do you think the angels didn't know that? It's their Torah. Then they say, why are you giving it to them? They didn't know these stuff. Says the Dibros. Why is he emphasizing these things? It's in the light of what we've explained, which is all the teachings of Chassidus. It's not my ideas. That the reason why he's saying all these things is saying to you, you are in heaven. In heaven, it makes no difference. However you perform these mitzvahs, it's not fulfilling the tachlis, the purpose of this world being created, which is that you should take the physical world and make it holy. This, you angels cannot do. If your mother ever told you you're an angel, that's a wonderful thing. But it's not good to be an angel. It's better to be a person. Malachim are called oimdim, standing people. And Yidden are called mahalchim, movers. It's in the Haftarah Pashas Yisrael. Because malachim do not change. They stay what they are. They cannot go better and they cannot go worse. But a Yid, a Jew in this world, has the opportunity to grow. Even a non-Jew has an opportunity to grow, because a non-Jew has 7 mitzvahs, and we refer to it as mitzvahs. It means that they too could connect to the angels. A number of times I get people in Sheffield coming to me, Rabbi, I'm interested in conversion. I say, why? What's wrong with you the way you are? Well, I want to see the light. I want to get close to Judaism. I want to feel spiritual. I say, you could do that as a non-Jew. You don't have to become Jewish to do that. You have your own mitzvahs, and that way you come close to God. Sheva mitzvahs b'nei noyah. So this is Moshe's emphasis to the Malachim. He's saying to them, you're in heaven. You can't make any changes with this. You can't do anything with this. You can exist. You can something special. You're a puff of smoke. You are beautiful, but you're not having any change in this world. Let me read to you a little Rambam. I'm going till 9 o'clock. Is that right, Dan? Is that what I'm supposed to be doing? Yeah.
Yes, yes, 9 o'clock.
Let me find you a different screen I want to show you. This one. This is the Rambam Hilchos Deis, Maimonides, the Laws of Knowledge and Good Behavior. In chapter 3, he writes, I will read and translate as I go along. And the Halach Aleph. Shema Yoima Odom. Maybe a person will say, since jealousy, desires and honor or anything similar are a bad way, and take a person out of this world, is I will keep myself away from them a lot, and I'll go as far away as possible. I will not eat meat, and I won't drink wine, and I won't marry a woman, and I won't have a nice house, and I won't wear nice clothes, and only just sackcloth and simple wool, hakosha, which is harsh, or something similar. Notice that the priests of the non-Jewish people serve the stars, a reference to non-Jews. Says Rambam, Gam ze derech rahi. This too is a bad way, but also leilech way, and you're not allowed to go in this way. If you walk in this way, you're considered a sinner. Sharu Omer ben Nazir, it says about a Nazirite, somebody who took on himself to be a teetotaler, doesn't drink wine. the chiper olav, that he has to bring a sacrifice at the end of his period of being separate from wine, me'asher choto ala nefesh, and what he sinned against his soul. What kind of sin did he do? He didn't have any wine. Why is that a sin? So, and the Chacham, the rabbi said, Ma'im Nazir, if a Nazarite, Shloi Pirish Elamin Ayayin, who has only stopped himself from drinking wine, Tzarech Kapara, needs to have an atonement. Anybody who holds himself back from everything, Alachas Kama Bakama. How much more so? Therefore, our rabbis instructed a person should not hold himself back, only from the things which the Almighty forbade you to do himself, not everything. In other words, if God permitted you to do it, then you should carry on doing it. If God permitted you to eat it, then you should eat it. Why should you eat it? What's wrong if I don't? Oops, I don't know what I did there. So the whole concept of the Yid in this world is to make the world a better place. And if you take yourself up to a corner, like the Kohanei Akon, like the monks, the priests of the non-Jewish nations, and go and find themselves in a corner and keep themselves away from anything material, you're not doing a mitzvah, because mitzvah is about making the world into a better place. Now, why do they do that? Why do they have this Christian concept that a good person is somebody who doesn't indulge in the material world? They have it because the material world will not improve their lives. They can't do anything with it. So in a sense, if they want to be holy people, then the only way they've got is to distance themselves from all material things, because they can't turn it back. A Jew doesn't do that. A Jew said, no, I have a mitzvah. You talked about the flour, Dan, about the flour and the challahs. We have a mitzvah to have lechem mishnah every Shabbos. Why? Not because we are supposed to indulge in the material things, but because we're trying to make it into something holy. If a person eats bread because he wants to fill his stomach, that's not necessarily a mitzvah. But a person eats challah because he wants to become a mitzvah, that is a mitzvah. That is a good thing. So we don't have a problem with the material world. We take it and we use it and make it into something special, something holy. And not just those which are mitzvahs. There is a concept of b'chol dorachecha do'elu. In all your ways, know him. Try and know the Eibishter. There is a mitzvah to try and bring something holy into everything we do. And every part of the world, and every facility that is available to us. Hence, when you get certain, I should be kind because they're all our brethren, there's certain elements of ultra-Orthodox society that say the internet is treif. When the Lubavitch first started broadcasting lessons in Tanya, on the radio, there were certain communities in New York said that's a terrible thing because radio is the creation of the Satan. The Satan can't create anything. Only the Eibishter can create. What do we use? We use everything out for the Shem Shammai. Now, if you use the radio to broadcast anti-Semitic things, or filth, or rubbish, or hatred, that's using it out for the wrong things. If you use a television to portray all sorts of things which is against Hashem, then of course that's not using it out the right way. But if you use it to disseminate Torah, if you use the internet to have a Zoom meeting so that we can learn the Ili Nishmas, Maras Shoshana Bas Yitzchak, then you're using it out for a good thing. You're doing exactly what the Torah wants you to do. Taking the world which is material, all forms of it, and using it out for something that is good. And that is the reason why when somebody passes away, we endeavor to do good things in their memory, like you're doing tonight. Why are you doing that? The person's gone. So yes, they're gone, but the neshama still exists. Okay, so it still exists. Therefore what? Well, therefore, the neshama will benefit from the actions of those that do things in her memory. So what is that doing? It says it's doing for the neshama that the neshama can no longer do. I walk around with my tzitzis dangling from from outside of my trousers. When I first moved to Leeds 30 odd years ago, they'd never seen that before. And one of the newspapers, they wrote an article about the sixes wagglers. They walked down the street with the sixes wagglers. So we became famous because of waggling. Fine, you all cry, but you know, when you go to a cemetery, you're not allowed to do that. You have to tuck them in. Why? Because there are people there, the neshamas of people are still connected to the places where they're buried. And if they see that you are fulfilling a mitzvah, they feel bad. They feel upset. It's called loyeg the rosh. You're poking fun at people who have nothing. They can't do the mitzvah, so you can. They feel bad about it. So don't flaunt it, conceal it, hide it. What's the big deal? Because once a neshama leaves this world, and that's the real, shall we say, problem, if there is a real problem, with a person passing from this world, is they can't do anything. Today is about doing the next stage is about receiving a reward. So if you look at Pirkei Avos, it says exactly that. It says that all of Olam Hazeh is not comparable. It's like the smell, the whiff, just a little bit of a vague aroma of Olam Haba. Nothing in this world equals that. Yet we have a contrary statement that says Yafa Tshuva, Yafa Shah Achatz, but Tshuva Ma'aseh Tovim Olam Hazeh is better. A small amount of time doing Tshuva or Ma'aseh Tovim, whatever it is you do, we call Chaye Olam Haba, from all of the life of this of Olam Haba. Because Olam Haba is you benefit from the product of what you've done, but you can't move, can't do anymore. In this world, you have the opportunity to do. And that is why this world is special. And if you think about that, you'll realize that we part company very radically from our Muslim brethren who believe that the next world is somehow better. It isn't. Next world is easier. This world is better. Here you have a chance to fulfill Torah mitzvahs and do all the right things. It says in Chavis Halavavos that children, whatever they do, automatically gets credited to their parents, the shamas. Parents, when they do things, they have to specify that they do them. If God forbid they lost a child, they have to specify they do this mitzvah for their benefit. If it's children, it's automatic. It's like air miles. Every time you spend money, you get air miles. Every time a child, a son or a daughter does a mitzvah, his or her mother or father and ancestors in heaven automatically are lifted as a result of that. Why? Because the person exists only as a result of those parents. So they automatically have some benefit as well. So this is the value of this world, that we have a chance to do something, we have a chance to make a difference, we have a chance to be mechanic to the mitzvahs. And this is one of the reasons why we make an effort, as you, Paul, have done, to bring together Jews to study Torah in it's quite remarkable way. All over, I don't know how many people there are and how many people have been on and all the other Zooms that we've done, because all of this is accruing benefit. It is gathering Kedusha and sending it up to those who are passed from this world, and they benefit from it and so on and so forth. This is the value of Shuvah Ma'aseh Tovim, what was every Kol Chaye Ha'olam Haba. I think I'm getting close to the end of this, and I've left 3 minutes in case anybody wants to challenge me on anything. So this is the Rambam we've just seen, and this is the significance of today's meeting and the value of it all. And I think that is the end of my little PowerPoint presentation. There you go. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Dan, for setting me up with this. And we should all meet and talk and learn from each other in all levels and in all places, wherever you may be. So I don't know who I'm talking to, but it's nice to meet you all.
Thank you very much for your nice words.
Thank you very much. Very interesting. Thank you.
Dank je zo maar.
You're welcome.
Ik had nog een vraagje. Ik kwam niet uit de betekenis van Kazara. Het woord Kazara.
The meaning of Kazara, she asked.
Was me niet... Was mij niet duidelijk. Sorry, ik spreek Nederlands. Sorry, ik moet even schakelen. Yes, sorry. Yes, the meaning of Gezara. In the beginning, you had all the dingen, dus stond het woord Gezara.
In the beginning of your PowerPoint, one of the first lines.
Yeah, one of the first line.
Which one is it?
Beginning of your PowerPoint.
Yes, before the Mount Sinai was the Gezara.
Gezerah means a decree.
Gezerah, okay.
Gezerah means yeah, I had that. Yeah, I forget what it is now here. Yeah, there's a Gezerah, that's the word, yeah.
Before Matan Torah.
That's the wording of that is the wording that is used in the Midrash over there in Shir HaShirim. He says there was a Gezerah, there was a law. Nobody could break that law. Even Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov couldn't change that. It couldn't make any difference. There's some interesting things in the Kabbalah. For instance, you know the story with Yaakov and the sticks, where he did with the sheep. He showed them sticks and that. It says in Kabbalah that was the fulfillment of the mitzvah of tefillin. How, in spiritual terms, this achieved what I achieved when I laid tefillin in today's generation. That was that. And we know they did other mitzvahs which are similar to the mitzvahs we have today. But in principle, you have an advantage of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov in as much as that any mitzvah you do has some. I'll tell you a little story. You know, there was a chassid called Mendel Futterfass. He was in Siberia for 17 years for spreading Yiddishkeit. And he said, afterwards, we would talk about it, he said, I had every type of Pesach ever. He said, I had a Pesach with matzah, without matzah, with 4 cups, without 4 cups. Never, he said, the first time they tried to break me, and I didn't have anything. He says, the only thing I had was an egg. On the night of Pesach, the only thing I had was an egg. He says, so I cracked the egg and I put it in a cup, and I said, this is my 4 cups, and I drank it. He says, and I burst into tears. It's the first time I cried in camp, because I couldn't have a Seder for Pesach night. He says, then a few years later, he got a box, and it had on it loads of stamps. Now, normally, the Russians would not deliver post. They'd only deliver letters, not parcels, because they went over water. They were afraid it would crack and they would sink. So, but this one, he said, it had so many stamps on it, I thought it was important, so I had to bring the big box. And why do you have so many stamps? Because the Russian Jews would send it from Kremenchuk to Moscow, from Moscow to Rostov, from Rostov to Kiev, in a roundabout way till eventually got, so as to hide from the authorities where it come from. So it had lots of stamps on it. So the postman thought it was important. It wasn't too heavy up, because it ups a box of matzahs. His family had managed to send him hand-baked shmurmakah. With him in the camp was one other Jew, but this Jew was not religious. So when he saw that he had matzahs, he suddenly said, you know what, can I join in the Seder? He wasn't interested in the Seder, he just wanted food. So the other non-Jewish people in the camp, they saw already what was going on. And they went to him and they said, listen, mate. He says, we know that you are not a religious Jew because we saw you throw stones at a bird and kill it. So if you're prepared to eat birds without proper slaughter, as Jews are supposed to do, you're not a religious person. So you're not going to have that man's, because he's a holy man and he has his matzah, you're not taking it from him. So Mendel Futterfass heard this and he said, listen, okay, I hear what you say, but you know what? He's another Jew. I don't mind if he has a bit of matzah and we can share the Seder. So they took him to one side and they said to him, listen, you'll have this man's matzahs, but if we catch you killing any birds, we will kill you. Don't you cheat on us, because they were very rough people out there. So this man has a Seder. Now you compare those two stories. In the first case, Mendel Futterfass was desperate to have a Seder. He would have given everything to have had his matzahs, his mored, his cups of wine, and he can't have it. And he cries bitter tears and he has this little egg. That's all he has. We understand him. We commiserate with him. We appreciate him. But if I ask you the raw question, has he done a mitzvah? The answer is no. As eloquent as he is, as noble as he is, he has not fulfilled the mitzvah. And in the other guy's story, the guy is not interested in mitzvahs. He doesn't care for the mitzvahs. He only wants food because there's no food. At the end of the day, when he sits and he makes a bracha, even if he doesn't make a bracha, but if he eats his matzah, he's fulfilled the mitzvah of ala chilas matzah. So what you do is what counts. It's a bit like my wife's wedding anniversary. I can say I meant to buy you a card. I had it in my heart to buy you a card. My love is with you is unquestionable. We've been together for 34 years. If I don't buy a card, I have failed. Because of what you do that counts. Don't tell me it's all in the heart, it's the thought that counts. No, it's what you do that counts. So this is what Torah mitzvahs is all about. It's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And every single opportunity for the mitzvah, that is the purpose of coming down to this world. And there's a book called The Invisible Man. It's written by an American, and it starts off with the following words: "If you could see me now." Well, it's a fantasy story about how some explosion turned him into an invisible person, how life was like once he was invisible. So, and the Shama in the next world would say to you, if you could see me now, you would realize it's crazy that you don't use every opportunity to fulfill a mitzvah, because for where I'm sitting now, they're so valuable. Every opportunity is that. It's an opportunity. To let a moment go by is a terrible thing. Because when you get to this world, you suddenly see the significance of all of this. Out of all the mitzvahs, by the way, the most important, the one that will get you the greatest appreciation in heaven, is to help another Jew. Do you know that?
Thank you.
Many times people get to the next one, they thought that the amount of time, how they shackled during davening, and how they did Shema, and all that was somehow important, and they discovered it wasn't. It's whether you helped another Jew. That's what matters, and that matters so much.
Yes. Yeah.
Anyhow, I think I've gone over my time, and Paul hasn't even stopped me, so.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, all the best to you.
Thank you very much. All the best.
All the best.
Thank you very much. Maar je bent nog steeds op mute.
What's that?
No.
He was on mute.
My son, I told you, thank you very much, but I was on mute. Sorry. Thank you very much for your nice words.
You're welcome.
And interesting words. First the nice words and the interesting words.
You're very welcome. I'm happy to do this again if you want.
Okay, please.
Thank you so much.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Dag. Ja.
Ja, morgenochtend moet ik me excuseren.